or their child, their dear friend, their parent, brother, whatever, leave this world, their dog, particularly the dog, they often feel great separation. Even some animals experience great separation from their associates. I know elephants do for sure. They don't recover sometimes when their partner leaves. They're very sorrowful, lamenting. And this is the nature of this world. In the Bhagavad Gita, we see Krishna in the very beginning, practically the theme, if we want to use that word, the theme of the first instructions of Krishna to Arjuna are based on this nashochatiya. Don't lament. Don't lament. Don't lament. It's inevitable that the death of the body will come. And at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, very famous verse, again, don't lament. Brahma, Bhuta, Bhakti Shastris, come on. Nasochati, Nakankshati, don't lament. And don't hanker in this world, because if we hanker, you know this word, hanker? What's the French word for hanker? To be intensely aspiring for something, to want something very intensely, to hanker after something, practically to lust after it, practically. Always leads to lamentation, disappointment, depression, so many things, negativity. But how to just say, that sounds very good, no lamentation, but not as easy as it sounds. So Krishna said, one who comes to the Brahman platform, the spiritual platform, you can perhaps be hard-hearted and strong willpower. I will not hanker and I will not lament. Then what will you do in this world? Sit there all day long doing nothing? Or just be robotic in one's activities? Because as soon as we become a relationship develops, there's inevitably there's attachment involved. The nature of the conditioned soul is the nature of the liberated soul. Attachment. We can't give up attachment. So unless we get the higher taste, vishayav vinivartante nirahavrasyadena. Unless we get the rasa vajam sopyasya param drishva nivartate, a higher taste, pretty hard just to say no to these lower tastes and the effects of being attached to material, temporary objects. It's pretty hard to give it up. We may try, but unless one has a higher taste, it's very hard to give this up. And if we do give it up, what's the point? We're still, basically speaking, in illusion, unless we realize our identity. So lamentation is in this world so prominent in its various forms. You see millions of people turning up sometimes when a famous person leaves the world. If you go to a crematorium, you see so many people when somebody has left this world crying and crying. Sometimes they can't be consoled for years, maybe not even that, maybe a lifetime. Especially when there's a deep attachment, isn't it? In India, especially between the husband and the wife particularly, right? The husband departs for the wife, it's like unbearable. That's one of the reasons, not the main reason you could say, but one of the reasons why previously there was these sati rites. Because if the wife is actually a wife, she can't bear living without her husband practically. It's like half of her body is gone. And the strong part, the main part practically. Unbearable. Imagine if you only had half a body. Huh? Half a body, you only had the right side. Pretty difficult, huh? Of course, it's on the subtle platform, but still it's very, very difficult. And the same thing with anything which we're very attached to, even our objects sometimes, We can become so attached, we feel lamentation in losing even a mobile phone or a computer or a car or something. Our old socks. We can become attached to just about anything, Sentiments are so strong. Their mother, I remember when I went home one time to see my parents. I went a few times, of course, but quite late in their life, maybe, I don't know, 20 years after I joined the Hare Krishna movement. And my mother still had my socks from when I was a kid and the coats I used to wear in the cupboard. I didn't see it before, but I looked in a different cupboard, and there they were, The teddy bear that we used to have when we were a kid. It's like for the parents, I'm sure your parents have also gotten some of your artifacts. It's almost like worshipable for them, It reminds them of those moments. As devotees also keep artifacts of devotees, Prabhupada specifically, devotees would keep, a hair, one of Prabhupada's hairs, or a little bit of, something which he used, something. And we treasure it. It's a memory you want to hold on to. So what's the big difference, materially, spiritually? Materially speaking, this kind of attachment and consequent lamentation in separation binds the conditioned soul to the material world, assures the soul of another birth in this world, maybe in a different life form, continuing that attachment. In fact, many times, the same two persons who are so attached will take birth again and continue, maybe in a different body, and even a different relationship in one sense, but continue with that illusion. So the same principle, if we become attached, Lord Kapila Dev describes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Pasangam Ajarapasham, I've forgotten the whole verse, but he describes how the greatest entanglement for the living entity is our attachment to the material. And when that same attachment is transferred to the pure devotees, it becomes the source of our liberation. It looks the same in one sense, maybe even less. You say, why are you so attached to that person? You should be more attached to your wife, your family. Well, you may be also, but sometimes it's even greater attachment to that person you never knew until a certain stage of one's life. But that attachment is not just based on sensual perception or interaction on the mental and physical plane, satisfying my senses. It's based upon a spiritual relationship. An attachment is someone who is selflessly giving themselves for our benefit. We may not appreciate, or we may appreciate, but those who appreciate become very deeply attached because they realize that my spiritual progress is based around the mercy of Krishna coming through this personality. They remind us of Krishna. They remind us of the fallacy. You know this word fallacy? Those who are not English speaking? No. What's the French word for fallacy? Falsity, you could say. Falsity is a common word. Prabhupada used it a lot. The falsity, the misleading understanding that comes about by material endeavor. It's anyway. You know that word, Annapurna? Fallacy? Anyway, you get the idea. It's a fallacy. People think that by, increasing their material assets, they'll become satisfied, that then maybe we can conquer over suffering, we can conquer over death, right? No more need to die. Well, they tried. Now, this is a fallacy that the soul can be satisfied in an unnatural environment. Any more than Prabhupada gives simple examples. Usually, fish out of water. Can a fish be happy out of water? Not for long. Even if it has all the best fish food in the world, has a beautiful fishy wife or husband and lots of fishy kids. But out of the water, nothing will bring satisfaction. It will not be able to breathe. So the soul in this world is like that in a sense. Only can last so long out of water in one body. But unfortunately, we then don't take human life particularly, don't take advantage of it, and we go back again into another body until we return to you could say, the spiritual realm, the spiritual water. So lamentation for those who are transcendental is an attachment which releases us from material attachment. Although it may, mundane, from the material point of view, appear very similar, if not the same. It actually increases one's dependence, one's attachment to Krishna, purifies our heart, etc. So this translation of this verse, he who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, filled with compassion, full of it, giving it every moment. There's nothing but compassion and mercy coming out from such a pure devotee. They have no other purpose in this world other than to serve the will of the Lord in giving or awakening other souls to Krishna consciousness. Where is such a personality gone? Where are they? It's rare to find. Huh? Such a pure devotee in this world is extremely rare. There may be many devotees or aspiring devotees, but to actually recognize also is rare. But even if there is, it's very rare. Even if there is, to find a pure devotee of the Lord is very, very rare. In Kali Yuga, even more so. Where have they gone? They've gone away. They came. They gave their association for a little while and they've gone away. They're not here. They may be here. We understand that the devotees, pure devotees, he reasons ill who tell that Vaishnavas die whilst thou art living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy life around. They live in sound. They don't. Materially speaking, we also worship or hold on to, for some time at least, certain heroic personalities, like here in France. You see many places that Napoleon is still highly highly, not say worship maybe, but highly regarded, heroic personality, or Charles de Gaulle, some hero of the French nation, many heroes here. And many of them are still quite, well known. Nowadays, people may not know so much about some of the philosophers and so on and so forth in French history. It's becoming less and less. But for some time it's there. It wasn't there before they came, though. And it won't be there in the future at some point of time, practically. It'll just be a name in history. But great spiritual personalities, their legacy, their contribution to this world remains permanently alive. Just like Srila Prabhupada, you who may never have literally seen him, you could say, in his present form, but his books, his teachings are there for one and all. So we take advantage of his association by hearing from his instructions, which are the life force. It's not that just the association is the all in all. That's unique. But what really makes that association, we could say, invaluable, as it says here, the treasure of divine love, are the instructions which he gives, which awaken that treasure chest. So we have, this is called a chest, a chest. We could call it a treasure chest. Inside this chest is the greatest treasure, love of God. Treasure chest. Got it? We have to open it. So the instructions of the spiritual master, we just sung, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriyo Hekya. What does that mean? When you say it every morning, what does it mean? Most of us don't know. We say the Bengali and then we all through, and then we say the English all through, but we don't equate the two to each other very much. Even Samsara Dava, we don't always equate the meaning with the verse. So what is Guru Mukha Padma Vakya? Yes, yes. May the words emanating from the lotus mouth of my spiritual master, what are they supposed to do? Make me cry? Yeah, sometimes it said, one with my consciousness. In other words, they are my life force. They are my life force. I guide my life. My life is guided by those words. Sometimes it said, maybe those words purify my consciousness. Both. You could say both. Yes, because they sound like ordinary words to many people, not even very pleasant to many people. Even from the articulated point of view, they may not always be so pleasant, but they are transcendental. They are coming from the lotus feet of Krishna. They've touched the lotus feet of the Lord, so they purify whatever. Vibration purifies everything within reach. And if we absorb or associate with those transcendental words, then we can also become purified of what? Purified of what? What do we become purified of? Pardon? Material conceptions. Yeah, we have. This is the deep, deep thing, isn't it? We may be attached to objects, but it's based on a material concept of life. Anyone with a material concept of life is attached materially. It might be to a goldfish. Yes, people become very attached to goldfish also. Or it may be gold. But we become, because you have a material concept, what is a material concept? What is it? Yeah, me. This is me. This is me. I was listening to Prabhupada yesterday. I think it may have been in Melbourne. He was at a school or something. Lots of little kids. Maybe somewhere else. I don't know. Huh? And he's asking that question. So he went straight into it, What is this? He said. What is this? What is this? One of the kids said, arm, arm. What is this? Knee. What is this? Nose. And what are you? Where are you? What are you? What are you? And they don't know anything else. It's like, this is me. And then Prabhupada goes on to try to explain to these little children, the difference between the possessor and the possessed. We all know there's a difference. We say, this is my computer. Right? This is my computer. My. Not me computer. This is me computer. The computer is me. In one sense, we become identified with it and almost connected, but there's still a difference between me and the computer. If you throw the computer out the window, please don't do it yet, but if you do, it's not exactly you who have been thrown out the window. You might think, oh my God, my computer is finished. You've ruined my life. But, I'm still there speaking and etc. There's a difference there also. There's some similarity, but there's a difference. So this philosophy is hard for those who are so absorbed in the material concept of life. So at the root of all these attachments is this false concept, this falsity, this fallacy as to who am I? And this is mine. Well, if it's yours, really yours, how is it someone's come along and thrown it out the window? And like a child, there's childlike mentality. They become attached to every little thing. You try to take it away, they go into a tantrum. Even if it's a useless item, like a little piece of stone or something. They think, material world, like that we become. We're like childlike. So the pure devotees try to help to mature us. So they can, that's their treasure. It's not just coming and speaking about the transcendental nature of the gopis and Krishna in the groves of Vrindavan. When we're thinking about our girlfriend and our boyfriend and our dog and our cat and all the other attachments we have, it's with the premature, we're not ready yet. There is a process. Their words are the process, giving us the process of purification. So we can begin to really understand. That's why here we go, Dan was singing. He didn't finish the song. This Hari Haraye Nama Krishna song. But there, in order to, what is that verse? Chai Gosai Jabi. Anyway, whatever it is. Vraja Hoilabas. Anyway, I've forgotten. But we have to, in order to understand the transcendental nature of Vrindavan, or the loving relationships between the Lord and his devotees, we have to study the books of the 6 Goswamis. We have to study, we have to understand. There has to be some, not just understanding, but realization of our nature. We have to be free of the bodily conception of life. So that's what they're giving us, the process to free us from this material conceptions. So now he's getting particular. The Srinivasacharya was his very close associate. They were very closely attached, Narottam and Srinivas. And whereas Srup Damodar and Rupa Goswami, 2 of the most intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya, they've all left the world. Whereas Sanatan, whereas Raghunath Das, he's thinking of these great persons. So you think of pure souls, eternal associates of the Lord, then we can, that attachment will take us out of this world. Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where's Krishna Das Kaviraj? As hankering for things in this world binds us, hankering for these pure devotees delivers us. Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? Where is he? Hankering. Lolium. This is the price of Krishna consciousness. I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Nobody literally not to do this, but one feels like that. What's the use of my life? It's unbearable without these great personalities. I'm lost. I'm alone. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to attain the association of Lord Chaitanya, accompanied by all of these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. And that weeping is intensifying one's attachment to the Lord and his devotees. Very vipalamba bhavit, the emotions of separation, deep separation, which are reflected in this world and cause one's continuation in illusion. So today we're honoring the Tirobhav of Baladeva Vidyabhusana and either the appearance or disappearance of Ganga Goswamini. I will not speak about. I'll just read something about the glories of Baladeva Vidyabhusana. And he has a very significant role to play in our movement. And if you take the Bhagavad Gita as it is, at the very beginning, what does Srila Prabhupada say? This Bhagavad Gita is dedicated to Baladeva Vidyabhusana. Why? Yes, because it doesn't make much sense to us now, perhaps, but in the history of India and the history of Vaishnavism, not just Vaishnavism, other lines of thought also, but particularly in our line, Baladeva Vidyabhusana had a very significant role to play, which you'll hear about very shortly. Pardon? Is a story in Jaipur. Yeah, we're going to hear about that. So our school of Vedanta, what does Vedanta mean? Vedanta, what does that mean? End or essence of the Veda. Yeah, or the conclusion, you could say. The conclusion of knowledge, Vedanta. What is the final conclusion? So what is our Vedanta in Lord Chaitanya's line? Very good. Achintya, Veda, Veda, Tattva. Now this is unique. It's contained in various aspects in all the lines, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu synthesized, we could say, the essential truths of the various lines, even the impersonal line of Sankaracharya, the oneness aspect, the harmonious aspect of spirituality, and also the relationship between the various parts or the energies of the Lord with the Supreme Lord. Synthesized in this philosophy, we are simultaneously, inconceivably, almost simultaneously what? One with what? I am you and you are me and we are all together, the Beatles sang. They were trying to impose the impersonal aspect without the personal one. We're not all one in every aspect. There's simultaneously oneness and difference. So that's a philosophical discussion. We'll move on. But that was the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya, which was kind of a bit unique in a sense in its fullness. Baladeva Vidyabhusana is famous for his commentary, which was called Govindabhasya to Vedanta Sutra. What is the Vedanta Sutra? There are bulleted points of the Vedanta. Yeah, Srila Vyasadeva compiled this synopsis, this commentary on the Vedas, this Vedanta Sutra. Although Mahaprabhu considered Srimad Bhagavatam as that super excellent ripened fruit of Vedic wisdom to be the natural commentary to Vedanta Sutra, on Mahaprabhu's indirect order, Srila Baladeva wrote the Govinda Bhasya in order to satisfy The name Sadachari Raj, this king Jai Singh, sometimes known as Jai Singh, this Rajput king in Rajasthan, who was a Vaishnava. We'll hear about that in a minute. But to satisfy his assembly, he had a big assembly of Brahmins in Jaipur. And if you know where Jaipur is, where's Jaipur? Rajasthan. Where's Rajasthan?
Rajasthan is a state.
It's a state. It's in a state. In India. It's not far from Vrindavan. Part of Vrindavan, or let's say Greater Vrindavan, Braj, is in Rajasthan. If you do Govardhan Parikrama and you're on the western side, you can actually walk into Rajasthan. Just across the road, practically. And to lend formal. So to satisfy the assembly, who were not very convinced, and to lend formal credibility to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, coming from Lord Chaitanya. Little is known of Baladev's advent, or his birth. The place and time of his birth, as well as his family, are unknown. They didn't have birth certificates in those days. You don't need a certificate to be born. Nowadays, everything's registered, and all these things. However, it is believed that he was born in Baleshwar near Raimuna. This is in Orissa, a famous place of pastimes of devotees. In the early 18th century, to a Vaishya farmer. During his childhood, he studied with the Pandits on the bank of the Chilkachrada River. As Baladev grew, he demonstrated his natural capabilities and became well versed in Sanskrit grammar, poetry, rhetoric, and logic. After he graduated from school, not wanting to be tied to his father's profession, as a Vaishya farmer that would be, he left home and traveled to different places of pilgrimage. After a time, he came upon the temple of the Tattvavadi followers of the Madhva Sampradaya in Mysore, now in Karnataka. Famous city, huh? Mysore? Mysore pak. Nice spicy, huh? Very spicy. And incense, very famous for incense, isn't it? Agabati. Very famous. Big city. So there the Tattvavads, and Lord Chaitanya also came across them. They're kind of more inclined towards Varna ashram and, let's say, the external aspects of devotional service. So he was there, and he became fully conversant with their philosophy and conclusions. And after accepting the renounced order of sannyas, he adopted the life of a wandering renunciate. A wandering renunciate sannyasi, traveling everywhere, what sannyasis are supposed to do normally. Traveling and preaching vigorously all over Bharat, which we now call India. After a time, he came to Sri Jagannath Puri and at Utkaladesh. That was the name of the state of those days, Utkal. That's Orissa, or not exactly, but that area was Utkal. He met Radha Damodar Dev Goswami, one of the foremost grand disciples of Rasikananda Dev, a famous disciple of Srinivasacharya. They discussed devotional topics for some time, and Radha Damodar Maharaj related Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings of Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta, which Lord Chaitanya had spoken to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He recited these to Baladev. He urged Baladev to read Jiva Goswami's Bhagavat Sandarbha. It's a commentary. Jiva Goswami wrote these incredible commentaries on the Bhagavat philosophy. After days of being immersed in such nectarian topics, Baladev was overwhelmed, his heart deeply moved. At the same time, he noted on an intellectual level that Jiva Goswami and Sri Madhvacharya did not significantly differ on essential points of Siddhanta. He then accepted initiation into the Radha Krishna mantra and began studying Jiva Goswami's Satsandarbha under the tutelage or the direction, the guidance of his guru, Radha Damodar Maharaj. As with the Tattvavadi Siddhanta, Baladev soon became expert in Gaudiya Siddhanta. In order to further this, his Gurudevs instructed him to journey to Vrindavan and take shelter of the mercy of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who at that time was you could say, the Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnav line. Journeying first through Navadvip Dham, he traveled the 800-odd miles to Vrindavan by foot, where he was met by Vishwanath. That reminds me, where's Devarshi? Oh, he's living with Charles. Vishwanath observed in Baladev the Vaishnav qualities of submission, modesty, learning, and renunciation. Submission, modesty, learning, and renunciation. Baladev completely dedicated to the Krishna Bhakti and the service of Sri Vishwanath, and the Thakur taught Baladev Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, the esoteric meanings of Bhagavat philosophy, as found in the Rasa Shastras, especially in Chaitanya Charitamrita, among other things. With his mind fixed, Baladev preached vigorously the Gaudiya Vaishnav conception of love and service of Godhead. Around 1628 in Amber, which was the old capital of the Rajputs of Jaipur, it's just a nearby valley of Jalta Valley or something, it's one city there, the followers of Ramanuja attempted to cause controversy by arguing to the king, who was there at that time, Sadachari Raj, that since the Gaudiya Vaishnav Sampradaya had no commentary on Vedanta Sutra, yet all others did, that Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya was not valid. These things were held, like in law, legal court almost, This is not authorized, it's illegal, not bona fide. These are the sort of things they would discuss, maybe not now so much. After the arrival of the popular Govinda deity, they felt their 6th-generation-old position of privilege challenged by the charming deity of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and his followers, because Govinda was worshipped, of course, by Rupa Goswami, famous deity from Vrindavan who was brought to Jaipur, now worshipped. Many of you have seen in Jaipur the beautiful deities of Radha Govinda. And that time they would come and everyone was becoming attracted, but they were mainly worshipped. They were worshipped by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So it was a little bit disturbing to the local Brahmins or the Vaishnavas from the Sampradaya, the Sri Sampradaya, called Ramanandis. Sri Govinda Dev began to captivate the hearts and minds of the Jai Singh, that's the king. The king, he's basically, whoever is the Jai Singh, he's the king, and his family. The Ramanandis therefore contested the Gaudiya lineage and contended that they should not be allowed to serve Govinda and Gopinath, and that more qualified persons, i.e. themselves, should be serving them. They thought that this would ensure their hegemony, their influence in the area. The king, being a wise man, had pored over, that means he'd gone through, he'd kind of maybe not studied deeply, but he'd gone over all the literatures of the 4 Sampradayas, and had studied Bhagavat Purana and its commentaries by Sridhar Swami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami. He'd studied the Vedanta Sutra and its commentaries by Shankara, Ramanuj, Madhva, Vallabha, and Nimbarka, and Jayadev's Gita Govinda. He also read the works of Rupa Goswami, Gopal Bhatta, and Krishnadas Kaviraj, even going as far as to pen his own Brahma Bodhini, a thesis advocating the unity of the Vaishnavas. We can see from this the king was not an ordinary person. He was very learned and very scholarly and serious. However, kings nowadays have any knowledge of any of these things, or leaders of society. However, to the Ramananda's dismay, the king of Jaipur had already become ensnared, that means completely enwrapped, entangled by Govinda's charm, and a follower of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. In order to settle the controversy fairly, he discreetly sent a messenger to Vishwanath in Vrindavan, asking if there was a Gaudiya commentary on Vedanta Sutra. and if so, to expedite it at once so that the learned pandits could scrutinize it. By now, Vishwanath had become very old, and feeling his body weak and infirm, he sent Baladeva to contest the Ramanuj Pandits at the king's assembly in Galta, near present-day Jaipur. Baladeva, being expert in logic, reasoning, and scriptural conclusions, disputed their claims, arguing that Mahaprabhu would establish Srimad Bhagavatam as the conclusion of all the Shruti, therefore the topmost commentary on Vedanta. The Bhagavatam itself claims this, and therefore it is called Bhashyanam Brahmasutranam, natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature such as Garuda Purana, Bhashyam Brahmasutranam Vedata Paribrinhitam, and later by Jiva Goswami in his Sat Sandarbha. Therefore, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya saw no need for a separate commentary on Vedanta Sutra. However, the Ramanujas took this as Baladeva conceding defeat, and they shouted loud and clear, "They have no commentary, huh? They have no commentary." Realizing the delicacy of the situation and faced with no other option, Baladeva promised to show them the commentary within a few days. The Pandit suspected a trick. How can he do that? He's just trying to trick us, thinking that such a commentary would not exist based on Baladeva's previous arguments, but were temporarily silenced. Neither there was such a thing, neither he could bring such a thing in a few days. He's just trying to, hold off. Feeling very perturbed, Baladeva went to the temple of Sri Govinda and offered his full dandavats before the deity. He recounted all that had happened before the deity that night as he slept. Govindaji came to him in a dream and personally told him to compose a commentary. And the deity said, "That commentary will be personally sanctioned by me. No one will be able to find fault in it." Awakening, Baladeva became joyous, and after meditating on Govinda's lotus feet, he began the composition. After a few days, he was ready with his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, the Govinda Bhashya. Basically, it was dictated by Govindadev with him. Govinda's commentary. Later in his life, Baladeva wrote an appendix to the Govinda Bhashya. I was thinking, is this Govinda Bhashya available in English? Oh, okay. I haven't seen it. Be nice to come across it. Have you seen it, Gopaswami Prabhu? It would seem to be quite a significant literature to be available. Govinda Bhashya. Yes, when he reveals Vidyabhushanam ye pradaya katim nitye teno yo mamuduraha Shri Govinda swapna nirdishta basye Radha banduranga sajivat. May Shri Govinda be all glorious. By his mercy, he revealed this commentary to me in a dream. As such, this commentary is especially appreciated by the highly learned, and as a result of this, I have been bestowed the name Vidyabhushan, the ornament of all knowledge. Bhushan, like ornament, Vidya, knowledge. But it is Sri Govinda who deserves all the credit, or the ornament of the learned. That Sri Govinda is the most dear life and soul of Sri Radhika. May he be all victorious. Armed with his commentary, Baladeva went to the halls of the king. The Ramanandi Pandits were stupefied by his work. They had nothing to say. They couldn't contest it anyway. They were completely disarmed and overcome by it. They were actually captivated by it also. And the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya was declared victorious. Everybody became blissful and happy, and the Pandits bestowed the title of Vidyabhusana, one whose ornament is knowledge, on Sri Baladeva, in honor of his scholarship and achievement. Baladeva Vidyabhushan installed the deity of Vijay Gopal there at Galta Mandir. The whereabouts of this deity are presently not known. And the king then furthermore decreed that henceforth everyone should attend the arti of Govinda Dev. Everyone, man, woman, and child. And even to this day, you go to Jaipur, even early in the morning, you'll see hundreds and thousands of people running to the temple for Mangal Arati. It's like when I was last there, it was like a mad rush. I mean, it was just incredible. The people running around Jaipur to take darshan of Govindaji and then Gopinathji and then different deities around the city, running to get their darshan. People is so strong in their hearts. The belief, not just the belief, but the attachment, the relationship with the Lord. Yes. He declared, everyone should attend the Arti, who was ultimately the inspiration for and source of the commentary. He declared that Sri Govinda should be worshipped first, and that then, and only then, could the other temples perform their artis. The king also declared Sri Govinda Dev the king of Jaipur, and accepted the position of minister for himself. So the deity became the king, and he became the minister of Govinda. This is just such a different world we live in now. The Ramanuja, this is just a few hundred years ago. 18th century? 17th century. The Ramanuja accepted Baladeva Vidyabhusana as their acharya and asked to be his disciples. See, they were humble. They were followers of Ramanujacharya, and they were contesting because, things have to be authorized to be, taught. But then when they were convinced, then they surrendered. They didn't continue to argue or run away. Demonstrating great humility, he declined, citing that there were 4 sampradayas, and that their sampradaya was one of these, highly respectable, the foremost adherent of Dasya Bhakti, service to the Lord, and preaching servitude to God in Dasya Ras as the best religious process. The Ramanujacharyas mainly focus on Dasya Ras, the relationship of service, preaching that. Although he preached Gaudiya Siddhanta, he said he meant no loss of respect or esteem to the Sri Sampradaya and was wary of insulting them and thereby committing a great offense. Baladeva then returned victorious to Vrindavan. His Gurudev, the Vaishnavas, and all the residents of the Dham were elated, very happy, overwhelmingly happy. And Sri Vishwanath bestowed his blessings on his disciple. Baladeva then commenced his commentaries on Jiva Goswami's Satsandarbha. Around this time, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur passed from their vision, but although this caused the community distress, they saw Baladeva as continuing in his spirit. They accepted him as their leader. He wrote many, many books. He explained the position of transcendental sound, Omkar, in relation with Krishna, his name, the potency of Godhead, the relevance of Shastra Praman, or taking things from Shastras, irrelevance, not just anything here and there, but what is relevant to the situation. In relation to Pratyaksha, direct perception, Anuman, hypothesis, trying to analyze things, Shabda, the words of authority, and so on, the different types of pramanas or evidences. There are many, 12 different types of pramans or evidences to confirm something. He continued this. Anyway, this is a long Sanskrit word, so I won't read it. And there's a little bit here on the teachings of Madhvacharya, very interesting in his commentary. He says, Madhvacharya taught that Krishna, who is known as Hari, is the Supreme Lord. No disagreement there. The Supreme Lord may be known through the Vedas. Krishna says that himself in Gita. The material world is real. Acharya has explained it's real but temporary. The jivas are souls. The souls are different from the Lord. There's a distinct difference there. There are 2 categories of jivas, liberated and illusioned. Liberation means attaining the lotus feet of Krishna, that is entering into an eternal relationship of service to the Lord. Again, the foundation of all rasas. Pure devotional service is the cause of this relationship. So there's no difference of opinion on that. The truth may be known through direct perception, inference, and Vedic authority. Maybe. Ultimately, Vedic authority is the conclusive factor. These very principles were also taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He also taught that he united the oneness between the Jiva and the Lord. Baladeva also elucidated on the 5 divisions of reality, Ishwar. These are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. What are the 5? Prabhupada mentions this in Gita. What are the 5 topics of Gita? Kala, time, yes, time. Karma, the Jiva, Ishvara, the Supreme. Yeah, Prakriti. These are the 5 topics, expanded in various details, etc., but based on this. And this was coming from Baladeva Vidyabhusana. And on Krishna's 3 energies. His 3 energies are, or Parashakti, Maya Shakti, and Kshatragya Shakti. The internal energy, spiritually, always spiritually conscious, and the external energy, the material energy, and the jiva, the marginal in between. Baladeva Vidyabhusana's writings constitute a veritable treasure trove, treasure chest, also same thing, of explanations of Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. And I won't read, but many, many different commentaries which he wrote and compiled different literatures, and there's a problem with this. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize how far down I've gone. Govinda Bhasya being perhaps the most famous to us, but he also commented, you can find them, we have them, commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita, especially. He wrote one commentary there on many literatures, Upanishads, and different Vedic literatures. He made many, many commentaries. He only had 2 disciples, Uddhavadas, Nandana Mishra, and he personally worshipped in Vrindavan. Which temple in Vrindavan did he have his personal worship? Anyone know? Deities of Baladeva Vidyabhusana. I think they're still there. They're very small. I think they're still worshipped there, actually. They're known as Jai and Sri Vijay Govinda. The Radha Gokulananda temple. Go to the Radha Gokulananda temple there. The deities of Baladeva worship there. Baladeva installed some of the deities of Radha Shamsundar temple, and his little known Samadhi Mandir is situated behind the temple, I guess, of Radha Shamsundar. I think it's behind the temple of Radha Gokulananda, I've seen. He disappeared from his earthly Leela in 1768. That's not so long ago. What's that, 250 years ago? Not so long. Hare Krishna. Shri Baladeva Vidyabhusana ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Ganga Goswamini ki jai. Ganga Sagar ki jai. Jai. Who was Ganga Goswamini? Yes, she was a guru. I've forgotten she's related. I may have some comments on time is not allowing. Yeah, related to some family relationship, I think. And in our line of disciplic succession. He's also an eternal associate of the Lord, of course. You can read. And look it up later if you want to find out the actual details. I didn't look at it this morning.
It's near, that's the temple where there is Lokanath Goswami.
Samadhi.
Samadhi.
Yeah, Gokulananda, Narottam, Baladeva Vidyabhusana, they're all there. Gokulananda temple.
Behind the Radharaman temple, not far.
Yeah, Gokulananda temple is about 100 meters from the Radharaman temple. 100 or 200 meters along that same lane. And Prabhupada used to live just about 50 to 100 meters from there in the Vamsi Gopalji temple in Vrindavan. He spent more time in the Vamsi Gopalji temple than he did in Radha Damodar temple, actually. He lived there longer. We don't usually go there. It's not so. Prabhupada's mission really started, manifesting, you could say, when he was in the Radha Damodar temple. So that takes. And Prabhupada made many comments. He didn't make many comments about the Vamsi Gopalji temple. It's the time he spent there in the late 50s until 1962, when he moved into the Radha Damodar temple. But he was there for maybe 4 or 5 years. It's a small temple. It's not a public temple. It's a family temple, basically. As Radha Damodar temple is, now it's internationally famous. But then it was famous amongst the Vaishnavas, only in India. Gaudiya Vaishnava. So Baladeva Vidyabhusana established this confirmation that Gaudiya Vaishnava is totally bona fide. It's an important point which was brought out.
He was not officially Diksha from Gaudiya Vaishnava.
He took initiation from yes, he was from that disciple of Rasikananda in Puri.
Diksha or Diksha?
It says he took initiation. That's what it said here. But we also understand, of course, Diksha is again in different lines of disciplic succession understood in different ways. And it's like in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, you take initiation in this line of knowledge and you take initiation in another line of knowledge. They're both considered Diksha. It's not necessarily what we call Satguru, one's eternal relationship on the transcendental realm is one's Satguru. Otherwise one's taking Diksha in different aspects of the path of knowledge or the path of practice in devotional service. They don't have to be contradictory either. They're complementary stage that one comes to. One then takes some kind of initiation at some stages. But it would seem like he would take Diksha in the Tattvavad Sampradaya, he took sannyas. And then when he came in contact with that grand disciple of Vastikananda, it would seem that he actually took Diksha, real Diksha from him, because he was the one who taught him all the aspects of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So he connected with the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya at that point of time. However, we do see that when he was with the Ramanandis with Jai Singh, with the king there in Jalta, that they asked to take initiation from him. They asked. They were Ramanujas, already initiated. They said, please initiate us. And we see Madhavendra Puri also initiated Brahmins to worship Gopal. So for different stages, initiation would be there. You kind of jump the gun a little bit there sometimes. But that's the principle. So then when they asked for initiation, he said no, because you're already bona fide initiated in the Ramanuja Sampradaya. He could have said yes, but he knew that they were in the mood of Dasya Ras. So he wasn't in the mood of Dasya Ras exactly, he's in the mood of Madhurya Ras. So how can he initiate them in Madhurya Ras when they're not in that Ras? On the real sense of the term, they're already bona fide initiated in their relationship with Krishna. So what am I initiating this something which they have no access to? It's meaningless. Lord Chaitanya, of course, has, one thing you say has, given this accessibility to persons. We have a little way to go, though. It's not exactly, oh yes, we're on the path of Madhurya Ras. Well, maybe, somewhere there. We're still trying to get hold of the basics. We're not the body. We're still on the bodily platform. We're on body Ras. Mind Ras. Enjoying Ras. Identifying with the material world. material conception still there. These things do not manifest until one is beyond anartha, beyond material designation. There's no question of starting to impose a particular, rasa, dasa rasa is the foundation of all rasas, personal rasas. But we haven't even surrendered to that yet. We're still fighting for our rights and fighting for our own conceptions of truth, etc. No question of going anywhere. We haven't even entered into Dasharas, properly speaking, not to speak of anything else. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So today, is there kirtan today, 10 o'clock onwards? Usually there's something. Is it going on today or not? Still going on or not?
So they say they start 12 o'clock now?
Pardon?
So they're starting 12 o'clock now.
12 o'clock.